Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to another episode of Comment Foolery Exposed. These comments that I'm going to share with you were found underneath videos and blogs about Chili from TLC. She called herself a forbidden term. She used the term caramel, and you guys already know that if you are not dark skinned, you're not allowed to decide your own skin tone. Other people have to decide your skin tone for you. Darker people have to tell you what your skin tone is. They have to gatekeep who's light skinned and who's not. They get to tell you what your skin tone identity is. And so if your skin tone identity is not a dark skinned, unambiguous black woman, then they're going to get mad because they don't want you to be lighter than them. They don't want you to see yourself as different than them. This one says, look at a piece of caramel candy. There is a difference between caramel and chocolate. So if you guys have seen my last video, you guys saw that I talked about how caramel is the new paper bag test. People are literally commenting on YouTube videos, telling others to Google caramel candies. They're pulling up pictures of Chili's face next to caramel. This is the modern day paper bag test, and that's because caramel is a coveted skin tone because it has enough proximity to blackness to where it's relatable, but then it has enough proximity away from blackness to where the black community is going to fight tooth and nail to make sure you represent them. Because I've noticed there's a pattern where in the unambiguous black community, especially for the women, they don't want women who actually look like them to represent them. So this is why you see them ignoring Kelly Rowland's music. This is why you saw them ignore Ari Lennox in favor of Chloe Bailey, because they don't want women who look too close to them, like with their actual skin tones, their actual hair textures, to be their representation. They would rather take someone out of this community over here to be their representation. But of course, you're not allowed to discuss that out loud. You just have to pretend as a mixed race person that you're an unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned black woman. This comment says, I had an issue of what she claimed until I looked at the caramel color reel. She is actually caramel, burnt. There is a shade of dark caramel, and that's what she is. So if I were to ever pull up a picture of Lupita Nyong'o and describe her as burnt chocolate, I would get so much flack for it. I would be banned from YouTube. I would be called all kinds of colorist, texturist, and featurist, but it's okay for them to call Chili burnt or to call her burnt caramel. This one says, well, if she caramel, then she left the caramel cooking too long. So once again, they're implying that she is burnt. And notice how whenever they're describing darker skin tones, they are making it like it's a mistake. You know, when you're burning something when you're cooking, that burn is a mistake. So this girl saying if she's caramel, then she left the caramel cooking too long. What she's saying is it's not the proper color. That's not the color that it should be. Anytime something is burnt, you burned it because it's incorrect. You cooked it incorrectly. You made a mistake with your cooking. When something is burnt, it tastes bad. And so see how people in the black community themselves, they themselves are associating darker skin tones with being bad, with being a mistake. If you look at one of my previous videos on black women gaslighting exoticals, you will hear quotes of these black women empowerment YouTubers saying that it is karma for your baby to come out dark skinned. So they're saying it's like a form of bad karma that these quote unquote colorist light skinned women, that they birth these dark skinned babies. So once again, they are subconsciously associating darker skin tones with being burnt, with being a mistake, and with being bad karma. So you didn't hear it from me. You heard it from them first. Someone else says maybe burnt caramel. So here we go again with her being called burnt again. Maybe burnt caramel, but I think texturism made her think she is a few shades lighter than what she is. There is a spectrum in the dark skin shade, and she would be the lightest of the dark skins. So honey, chocolate is your tribe. So notice how they're trying to make her dark-skinned as a humbling tactic. So once again, you are making dark skin at the bottom. Like you're putting it at the bottom by using it as a humbling tactic or saying, if you have a dark-skinned baby, it's bad karma. Or, you think you're lighter than what you are because of your hair texture. And actually, no, you belong over here with us in the chocolate tribe. This comment says, yeah, you do need glasses. Caramel is like the syrup. Brown is like the chocolate candy bar. So once again, we've got people they're admitting from their own mouths that they believe caramel is not quote unquote brown skin. They're starting the quote unquote brown or dark skin category at the chocolate tone. Someone else confirms that. They said she is brown skin and not caramel. So by them saying that, they're admitting that they do perceive caramel as light skin, which I actually agree with because I do believe that if you're in the caramel skin tone range, you are going to benefit from colorism and light skin privilege and stuff like that. Somebody else says Carmel is not brown. She's trying to say she looks like a spicy Latina or some kind of light skinned. That's just not the case. She is unambiguously black with wavy hair. First of all, how is someone unambiguously black and their hair is wavy? That's number one. Chili is mixed race, so she's actually not unambiguously black. But once again, they are confirming themselves that they do not consider Carmel to be quote unquote brown or brown skin or dark skinned or whatever. So for the people who try to come on my channel and discredit what we have already voted as being light skinned, there's the evidence. I mean, a lot of my talking points are coming straight from Black women empowerment channels or pro-Black spaces. So if you want to argue with me, go back and argue with the people that you've been listening to for the past 5 years. This one says, she always looked dated to me, like she's stuck in the 90s or something. She should try cutting her hair for a change. Someone else says, I agree. She needs to update her style and cut that hair. Yes, please, for the love of God, get a new hairstyle. She's holding on to that look because she thinks it makes her look younger. I think so too, and that hair is actually making her look older. Agree. That's not a good look for a woman of her big age. So notice how they want her to cut her hair. I actually don't think that Chili's hair makes her look older at all. I think she has beautiful hair. I don't see any grays in her hair, so I don't see how it's making her look older. I think that these people just want to use it as a humbling tactic. They want her to cut her hair because they want her to be more relatable to them. And it's funny how people will say that Chili's hair makes her look older. Meanwhile, some of the most popular wigs are Chili's exact hair texture. Someone said Chili wants to be Carmel for her white man. So once again, notice how they are randomly tying it back to the male gaze. Chili never said anything about men. She never said anything about her skin tone relating to men. But suddenly, of course, they've always got to bring it back to men because the colorism, texturism, featureism conversation is a male-centered conversation. Without men, none of those things would even exist. And so the women who get the most mad about colorism, texturism, and featureism, usually they're upset because of the male gaze. If you look at a lot of these YouTubers' content and they talk about their experiences with those things, usually it has to do with some man, like them not feeling like they're good enough for a man. And another thing that they will do is they will try to humble mixed race women and say, you got the same black man, as if that's supposed to be some sort of humbling tactic. They're saying it as if we think that because men like us, that means that we're somehow better. So once again, because they are male-centered, they think that the women who are getting attention from men are like thinking they're more superior or that we're cocky or something. So once again, very male-centered. Someone else said she wouldn't pass that paper bag test, yet we're the colorist? So you've got people in the Black community bringing up the paper bag test, which was specifically used to be racist against people, and yet this channel is colorist. You guys are over here bringing up the paper bag test, yet our community is somehow colorist. Also, if I were to ever bring up somebody that was unambiguous that I didn't like, and I ever made a comment like, oh, Lupita Nyong'o, she wouldn't pass the paper bag test. If I were to ever make a comment like that against an unambiguous woman, I would be called all types of colorist. But notice how they can use that same terminology towards people who are not dark-skinned, but they are not white passing. So she's saying that because she wants Chili to feel insecure. She wants her to feel inferior to those that do pass the paper bag test. She wants her to feel inferior to people with more white passing skin tones than hers. This one says, she is under good lighting and it's making her lighter than she is. Notice how they said she's under good lighting? That's making her lighter? Like, why is it good lighting if it's making her lighter? Isn't that interesting how they use terminologies like that and they don't even hear themselves when they talk? And also, the way that lighting works is it's literally just kind of drawing more attention and it's just shining light on the skin tone that was already there. So it's not like if you're Lupita Nyong'o's color and you get photographed, suddenly you're going to be Taylor Swift's color. No, lighting is really just shining a light on whatever your natural skin tone already was. It doesn't give you a whole new skin tone. Someone else says T-Boz is caramel. Lisa was the lightest. So once again, this is proof of what I say on this channel all the time, which is the way that people like to humble you if they view you as superior to them. So the way they like to humble mixed race people is they like to compare you to someone who's lighter than you. So I noticed that with Chili, they love comparing her to T-Boz and Lisa. and reminding her, oh yeah, you're the darkest. Like, you're the darkest out of the group. Your friends are lighter than you. It reminds me of how people say to light skins all the time. They'll be like, oh, my cousin is lighter than you. My sister is lighter than you. So once again, we've got an unambiguous person or an unambiguous presenting person who is obsessing over who's lighter. One of these people is not even alive, no longer even on this earth, yet she is literally raising this person from the dead so that she can remind Chili that Chili is not the lightest of the group. Someone else said toasted caramel, toffee with milk chocolate. So once again, they feel the need to police your skin tone. They are fighting over that caramel skin tone. They don't want Chili to have that skin tone. Have you ever noticed that a lot of unambiguous people, they don't want you to be lighter than them? And they don't want you to perceive yourself as lighter than them. I know I've had this happen to me before, where sometimes girls who were darker than me, they would randomly try to say, I'm lighter than you, or they would randomly try to like ask other people if they thought that she was lighter than me when they obviously weren't. But it's because deep down inside, they didn't want me to perceive myself as being lighter than them. So have you ever noticed how people, they're obsessed with your perception of yourself? And that's because they want to control it. They don't want you to be able to control your own self-perception. They don't want Chili to be able to control her self-perception. They don't want Chili to see herself as caramel. They don't want her to see herself as different than unambiguous black women, because that would leave them in the dust. You know, they feel, I've noticed that a lot of unambiguous women, when they make comments like that, is because they feel left behind. They feel socially left behind. And so they'll try to live vicariously through mixed race women like Chili, and then they'll get mad when Chili shows respect to her other heritage, or they'll get mad when Chili doesn't refer to herself as a chocolate black woman. But it's like, if you would have taken all that time and energy that you took bullying Chili, if you would have taken that energy to stream Kelly Rowland's music, she probably would have been a more successful singer by now. Then we wouldn't have Kelly Rowland out here walking off sets and, you know, not wanting to talk about Beyonce. So the black community, they spend their time arguing over the caramel skin tone, and then they complain, we don't have anyone to represent us, everybody's replacing us. So instead of just ignoring Chili and paying her dust and no longer supporting Chili, nope, they decide to make Chili even more famous by making YouTube videos about her, going back and forth and pulling up all of these pictures and giving her the paper bag test, the caramel test. And it's just really laughable. Someone said, which one of these shades is she closest to? And then they show 3 different shades of like the emojis. And I think it's hilarious how they tried to do the emoji with like the X symbol, like a no symbol, trying to say like, you're not caramel. This girl says, caramel people cray, LMAO. So it's like, which one is it? Is she caramel or is she not caramel? This person is there, she's contradicting herself because she's implying that she is caramel, yet she's crazy for thinking that she's caramel. So do you see the cognitive dissonance? Someone else says, oh, this is my favorite when they say this. Chili is regular chocolate, not dark chocolate. She's been that complexion her whole career. So what these women don't realize is every time they call a woman regular, I've noticed they love using the term regular or regular whenever they're describing someone who is more black adjacent. They'll be like, she looks like a regular black woman. She has a regular dark skin tone. Oh, there's nothing special about her other than her blue eyes. She just looks like a regular, everyday, average woman. So notice how they're associating that word regular, which is a synonym really for average or common. They're using the word regular next to chocolate. So they don't realize that they're actually playing themselves by saying she's regular chocolate, not dark chocolate. She's been that complexion her whole career. So once again, it's another way of saying you're not special because you're chocolate. Someone said, yeah, that herpes has gone and blinded her because she is most definitely, and then they showed the chocolate bar emoji. So now we've got somebody, they're doing the same thing to Chili that they do to MLS women all the time. I call it the pretty girl whore stereotype or the MLS whore stereotype. So they're associating Chili's phenotype and her desirability with being promiscuous. They're doing this on a subconscious level. So that's why they're bringing up her having herpes or her having STDs. A lot of people have been saying that about Chili, that she has herpes. Someone else said, self-hate. I hate people who claim to be light skin color, but they are dark skin. Don't let that go to your head because God gave you pretty hair. So once again, she is stereotyping that, and she is saying that because she has pretty hair, aka her type 2, type 3 hair texture, that somehow this made her delusional. So once again, this is a part of that whole exotical delusional stereotype, the light-skinned delusion, the mixed race delusion. This comment says, if you ever watched the movie School Days with the scene light skin and dark skin separation, Chili would definitely be on the dark skin side, not the light skin side. So isn't it hilarious how whenever they're trying to humble you, they love bringing up racist ass shit. So they're bringing up the paper bag test. They're saying you don't pass the paper bag test. They're saying you let that hair get to your head. And now they're bringing up School Days, which is a movie about colorism and like separating themselves based on skin tone. And they're saying basically you're too dark to be on the light side. So you would be on the dark skin side with the girls in that movie who were called jigaboos. Weren't they called jigaboos in the movie School Days? So she's saying she would be on the side where they're basically being called jigaboos. Someone else says, Mary J. Blige is caramel. Chili is definitely chocolate. So once again, people are bringing up random celebrities. I haven't heard anything about Mary J. Blige in like 10 years. So they're bringing up Mary J. Blige. They're bringing up the members of TLC. They're bringing up all these different celebrities as an attempt to humble Chili. And then how much you want to bet if Mary J. Blige ever were to publicly call herself caramel, people would probably gaslight Mary J. Blige and say the same thing. Well, you're not caramel. So-and-so other person is lighter than you. Keisha Cole is lighter than you. Alicia Keys is lighter than you. So do you see how they're constantly moving the goalpost? They're constantly moving the goalpost of what skin tone is what. And that's because, once again, they don't want you to be able to control your own self-perception. They want to be able to tell you exactly where you are on the skin tone hierarchy. But notice how it's usually darker skin, unambiguous people who are the most obsessed with where you fall on the skin tone hierarchy. Like I never until today actually looked up images of Chili without a tan and looked up the caramel, like the caramel candies that everybody was talking about. I never did that until today. I don't think about skin tone that much. It's only the people who have like inferiority complexes about skin tone that think about it this much, to the point where they're writing news articles about it. They're making whole entire videos about it. They're like going out of their way to try to bully Chili, or they're calling her a colorist. They're even calling Chili a colorist for simply referring to herself as caramel. Chili didn't say anything negative about dark skins. In fact, she said that chocolate is beautiful, yet Chili is still a colorist because she doesn't call herself chocolate. So do you see how everything is being thrown under you're a colorist? It's basically, if you disagree with an unambiguous black woman, you're a colorist. If you don't want to represent unambiguous black women, you're a colorist. If you don't want to be called chocolate, you're a colorist. And it's like, you're literally using the word colorist and you're throwing it around at everyone who disagrees with you. This person says, Chili is pretty, but I always thought T-Boz was the prettiest. So once again, nobody's talking about beauty. Nobody's comparing, like Chili wasn't comparing herself to any of the members of the group, but this person randomly feels the need to bring up, hey, just so you know, Chili, your friend who's lighter than you, yeah, she's actually the prettiest. So Chili, you're not as pretty as T-Boz, is basically what this person is saying. We've got another person saying she's in denial. She's the dark one in the group. So once again, they're comparing her to the other members of the group and calling her out as being the dark one. Like, imagine if I were bringing up Destiny's Child and instead of referring to Kelly Rowland by her name, I referred to her as the dark one in the group. I would be called all kinds of colorists for saying that, yet people are saying that to Chili like it's nothing, and it's because Chili is mixed. That's why. Someone said her hair texture got her confused. She missed her daddy. So notice how a lot of people in the unambiguous black community, they're very sensitive when you talk about daddy issues, when you talk about absent fathers, and when you talk about them coming from single mothers. So this is pure projection right here, because Chili, she is known to have had issues with her dad in the past. And so now they're literally bringing up Chili's family childhood traumas, and they're trying to use it as a way to humble her. And they're saying her hair texture got her confused. So they are implying that because of her quote unquote loose hair texture, or, you know, the hair texture that would be pedestalized, that somehow she is delusional. And so they want to bring up her traumas with her father as a way to humble her. But if I ever were to bring up black women, like unambiguous black women and their fathers, as a way to humble them, I would be called racist. Somebody said, Chili pulling a Kamala Harris. This ain't been her week. Between Usher airing things out, Suge, and now this. So once again, they're saying that she's pulling a Kamala Harris. They're saying that because Chili has a fluid identity, and so does Kamala Harris. So do all of us here on this YouTube channel. And so people who don't understand fluid identity, they view it as anti-black if you embrace any other sides of your identity. And that's because those people, they're very monocultural, they have a monoracial upbringing, and so they're used to being a little bit more closed-minded when it comes to how they style themselves, how they speak, how they carry themselves. And so if you veer outside of that, they view it as a betrayal because they're like, what are you doing? You're supposed to only be over here with the unambiguous black people. And I noticed they did the same thing with Kamala Harris as well. Someone else said, to me, she is the dark skin in the group. The other two can be called caramel. So once again, comparing you to your friends who are lighter than you, or comparing you to people you know who are lighter and saying, oh, they get the light skin pass. They get their ticket into the light skin club. You failed. You failed the light skin test. You failed the caramel test, Chili, so you don't get to be a part of the club. So once again, they're pedestalizing caramel by doing that. This person says, on her album, Crazy Sexy Cool, she was the dark one. So once again, we've got another person. Instead of referring to Chili by who she is or by her name or anything, nope, she is the dark one. That is her title. That is her identity. She is the dark one. Yet if I were to call Kelly Rowland the dark one, I would be called colorist, but you've got people calling Chili that. So she was the dark one. What's the big deal? Why is she even 50 years old acting like this? She is disappointing me, and she was my favorite one. But she's so disappointing, and I think she's more of a narcissist as well. So wow, first of all, you're the dark one, and now she's a straight up narcissist. How dare you call yourself caramel? You're a narcissist. Somebody else said, she's what, 62 now? Next. So once again, you've got people devaluing her because of her age. So this is a humbling tactic that a lot of guys like to use with pretty women. They will try to use your old age as a way to make you feel less valuable. So they're doing that to Chili because they're trying to take Chili down a notch. They want to take her off of this pedestal that she has placed herself on. Somebody else says, chocolate is the most beautiful and tastes the best, smiley face. So normally I wouldn't have a problem with this comment, but what I do have a problem with is if I were to come onto this YouTube channel and say caramel is the most beautiful and tastes the best, or butter pecan is the most beautiful and tastes the best. If I were to say something like that, I would be called a colorist. But notice how people who have deeper skin tones, you can say whatever you want. You can say chocolate tastes the best, or black women are the blueprint, the most beautiful women in the world, or if you're darker skinned, the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. You can say all of these terminologies, but you can't take it. So you can dish it out and you can get hyped about your own phenotype, but if somebody else does that and they look different than you, then it's wrong. Somebody said, she's toffee, but at this stage, what does it matter? You almost a senior citizen, Chili. So once again, we have somebody bringing up her age randomly. Like Chili said nothing about age. Nobody was talking about anybody's age, but they're randomly bringing it up as a way to humble her, like you're not that cute because you're not light-skinned. Somebody says, she's way darker than I am, just saying, and I don't consider myself to be caramel. She's been bleaching or that's a clone. Either way, this is all just to push coloration and further divide us. It's so tiring how we use our minds and mouth to tear us up with this constant skin coloration, and we're just so fixated on staying in ignorant spaces as a collective. Well, yeah, but you are contradicting yourself, Crown Nubian 5700, because you're the one who is staying on these ignorant spaces, making comments about it. And also notice how this girl, she compares Chili to herself. She says she's way darker than I am. So she has that mindset of, if I'm not light skinned, you don't get to be either. If I'm not caramel, you don't get to be either. So I've noticed a lot of monocultural mixed race people or monocultural light-skinned black people will make these types of comments where it's like, if you're darker than me, you're dark-skinned, or if you're darker than me, you're not light-skinned. But it's like, no, just because you put yourself in a certain box or a certain skin tone category, it doesn't mean that Chili's going to put herself in that skin tone category. Chili has both a fluid identity and has a fluid skin tone, depending on how much she stays in the sun or how much she stays out of the sun, and she clearly has embraced that. She gets to pick and choose how light she wants to be or how dark she wants to be. And also, when she made the comment about being caramel, she didn't even say that her current skin tone was caramel. She said without a tan that she is caramel. So it's funny how people are literally getting mad at Chili's past skin tone that she doesn't even have today. She had that skin tone in the past before she got a tan, yet people are still mad. Somebody else said, "Why is this a conversation? Y'all need to stop. This was not that deep at all. If I call myself Carmel, then that's what I call myself. Period. Stop trying to tell people what they need to be based on how you classify yourself. This was whack. And people spent their good energy on this." Yep, I agree. Then somebody responds, "You are not Carmel and Chili isn't either. You can call yourself whatever you want. Hell, we got boys calling themselves girls. So do what you want, but that's not going to stop people from pointing out what they obviously know and see." So once again, we've got a person policing not just Chili, but this random person in the comment section. And they have that mindset of, you don't get to determine your identity, I do. And that's because for a lot of unambiguous Black people, they allow other people, like they internalize what other people think of them. So notice how they'll say things like, "Oh, a police officer is going to kill you," or like, "If a racist man sees you, he's going to see you as the N-word." So they internalize what racist white people say about them. They internalize what racist police officers say about them. They internalize negative things that other people say about them. And so if they come across a person who is confident in themselves, and they just decide who they are within themselves, and they decide how they want to view their own skin tone and all that, then they get triggered. This person says, "Her color got lighter nowadays. Go check out some interviews and compare her to T-Boz." Somebody else said, "Dat bitch ain't Carmel." So once again, you are comparing her to her. You're comparing her to T-Boz. You're comparing her to Mary J. Blige. You're saying that she's a clone, that's not even her, because how dare you have a skin tone that changes from light to suddenly being dark skin? That's impossible. It has to be a clone. So these people are literally jumping through so many hoops, doing so many mental gymnastics in order to invalidate Chili's identity and cause Chili to feel insecure. Somebody else said, "Did she address the herpes status?" So once again, nobody's talking about herpes, nobody's talking about sex, and they have to bring up Chili's sex life. They have to bring up the fact that, you know, she's promiscuous, or they're accusing her of being promiscuous. And once again, this is just a humbling tactic. Somebody else says, "I am so sick of this woman and her anti-Black ass. She wants to be everything but Black. This chick even wanted to claim half Indian. It's so crazy how she had all those standards but ends up with homely ass white men. Do y'all remember on that show Chili Needs a Man? She ended up with a white ass out of shape farmer. Her standards are high for her own people." So once again, we've got people randomly bringing up Chili's dating life, which has nothing to do with her skin tone. But for the women who are male-centered, and for the women who have an inferiority complex about their skin tone, your skin tone does matter in your dating life to those women. So that's why we have these people bringing up Chili's relationships. Somebody says, "A delusional Pisces, unpopular opinion. I never found her that pretty. The way people gas her beauty up, I just don't see it. She's definitely not ugly for sure, but her demeanor is so masculine to me. She's very tomboyish. Left Eye was the prettiest, and T-Boz had presence. She was the Michelle Williams of Destiny's Child for me. Good to have, but forgettable, and not very necessary. And to top it off, she's not a very nice person. The way she replies to her fans in the comments, she's rude as F. Her IG is whack. She reminds me of how my aunt would randomly always bring Jesus in every conversation." So now we've got people, they're gaslighting her whole entire career. They're calling her the Michelle Williams of They're calling her the Michelle Williams of TLC. So once again, they're comparing her to other random celebrities and saying that she's unnecessary. They're attacking her career. She's been called a narcissist. She's been called a clone, all because she had the audacity to call herself Carmel. Somebody else says, "Chili wants to be an exotic mixed race woman so badly. I remember she got excited when people were comparing her to Karrueche. Such a sad, self-hating woman." So Chili is an exotic mixed race woman. Why is it that if somebody has Blackness as a part of their identity, that somehow they can't be exotic? No. Unambiguous Black women themselves say that they're exotic, and they talk about that in the Divestment YouTube channel. So why is it that suddenly if someone is a mixed woman, she can't be exotic? Is it because she's too dark-skinned to be exotic? Like, I can hear the internalized colorism and internalized anti-Blackness oozing from this comment right here. Somebody says, "She has always been brown skin. T-Boz is light skin / caramel." So do you see how they love moving the goalpost of what's light skin and what's not? Some people are saying, "Oh no, caramel is light and not brown." And then others are saying, "Oh no, caramel is brown, so Chili is caramel." Do you see the mental gymnastics they're doing and the constant moving of that goalpost? Anyway, What do you ladies think? Have you ever had anybody try to invalidate your skin tone? Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.